Have you ever noticed how some women can hide disappointment, hide attraction, even hide heartbreak? But there is one thing they struggle to hide for very long: consistency. Not the kind that comes from politeness, not the kind that comes from habit, the kind that keeps pulling her back toward you, again and again and again. And if you've ever found yourself wondering whether a woman genuinely loves you, or whether you're just reading too much into small moments, stay with me. Because what we're talking about today isn't fantasy, it's something much quieter, much more revealing. And if these conversations help you see relationships more clearly, consider liking and subscribing. Not for me, but for the version of yourself that's tired of guessing and wants to start understanding what people actually feel beneath the surface. Now let me tell you something that many men misunderstand. A woman who is deeply interested in you doesn't always become louder. Sometimes she becomes more present. That's a very different thing. I've worked with countless women over the years, different ages, different personalities, different relationship histories, and one pattern appears so often that I can't ignore it. When a woman starts developing serious feelings, she begins creating emotional returns. She comes back. Maybe after a conversation ends, she finds another reason to text. Maybe after saying goodbye, she remembers one more thing she wanted to tell you. Maybe she laughs at a joke hours later and suddenly sends you a message about it. On the surface, it seems small, but psychologically, it's fascinating. Because when someone occupies emotional space in our mind, our brain keeps searching for ways to reconnect with that feeling. Not because we're playing games, because connection itself becomes rewarding. Think about the people you don't care about. You don't spend your evening wondering how they're doing. You don't replay conversations. You don't look for excuses to hear their voice again. Your mind simply moves on. But when feelings grow, the mind doesn't move on so easily, and that's where many men miss the sign. They focus on dramatic gestures, huge confessions, romantic speeches. Meanwhile, she's quietly finding her way back into the conversation for the third time this week. Back into your messages, back into your day, back into your thoughts. And here's the uncomfortable part. Sometimes a woman realizes she's doing this before she understands why. She tells herself she's just being friendly, just checking in, just curious. Yet somehow your name keeps appearing on her screen. Your stories keep catching her attention. Your opinions keep mattering more than they should. She doesn't necessarily wake up one morning and announce, "I'm in love." It develops gradually, like water rising, slow enough that she barely notices, until one day she realizes you're the first person she wants to tell when something good happens. And strangely enough, you're also the person she thinks about when something hurts. That's when emotions begin moving beyond attraction. That's when something deeper starts taking shape. And if she does one particular thing more than once, something most men completely overlook, it reveals far more than she intends. Because women are often very careful with their words. But their patterns tell the truth. The behavior I'm talking about isn't dramatic. In fact, that's exactly why so many men miss it. A woman who is developing deep feelings for you will often revisit emotional moments that didn't need to be revisited. Pay attention to that. Not events, not facts, emotional moments. She'll bring up something you said days ago, a random conversation from last month, a joke that nobody else would remember, a tiny detail that seemed insignificant at the time. And you'll find yourself wondering, why does she even remember that? Because emotionally invested people store information differently. Most conversations disappear from memory because they carry no emotional weight. But when someone matters, your brain tags certain moments as important. Not logically important, emotionally important. I once spoke with a woman who could remember exactly what a man was wearing during a 15-minute conversation that happened 8 months earlier. She couldn't remember what she ate 2 days ago, but she remembered the conversation, his expression, the way he paused before answering a question, the slight nervousness in his voice. Why? Because feelings had attached themselves to that memory. The memory became more than information, it became an experience. Now here's where things get interesting. Many women won't openly reveal the depth of their emotions in the beginning, especially if they're afraid of rejection, especially if they've been hurt before. So instead of saying, "You matter to me," they'll unconsciously reveal it through attention. Attention is one of the purest forms of emotional investment, and attention leaves traces. She remembers the story about your childhood, the thing that stresses you out at work, the food you hate, the dream you've never achieved, the concern you mentioned once and never brought up again. Then weeks later, she asks about it, not because she's trying to impress you, because she genuinely remembered. And genuine remembering is rare. Most people listen just enough to respond. People who care listen enough to remember. There's a huge difference. And when a woman repeatedly brings up these personal details, she's revealing something she may not even realize herself. She's carrying pieces of you around in her mind. Now be careful. This doesn't mean every woman who remembers something is in love. That's not what I'm saying. Human behavior is more nuanced than that. But when it happens repeatedly, when she consistently recalls emotional details, when she keeps returning to moments that connected the two of you, when she remembers things even you forgot you told her, that's worth paying attention to. Because attraction often notices appearances, interest notices conversations, but deeper feelings notice the person behind the conversation, the fears, the hopes, the contradictions, the hidden parts. And here's the part many men never expect. The more emotionally attached a woman becomes, the less interested she is in performing perfection around you. Something begins to shift. The mask gets heavier. The effort to appear flawless becomes exhausting. And that's when another powerful sign begins to appear. A sign that reveals far more than compliments, flirting, or chemistry ever could. Because real feelings don't just make someone want your attention, they make someone want your acceptance. And those are two very different things. There's a moment that happens in almost every meaningful connection. A moment so subtle that most men completely overlook it. At first, she shows you the polished version of herself. The version she believes is easiest to like. The version that knows exactly what to say, when to smile, how to keep the conversation flowing. Most people do this, not because they're fake, because they're human. We all want to be accepted before we feel safe enough to be seen. But when a woman's feelings start becoming deeper, something changes. The performance becomes harder to maintain, not because she stops caring, because she starts caring more. And strangely enough, that's when you begin seeing the parts of her she doesn't show everyone else. Maybe she admits she's insecure about something. Maybe she tells you about a mistake she's still embarrassed by. Maybe she reveals a fear she usually keeps hidden. Or maybe she simply allows herself to be imperfect around you. That last one matters more than most men realize, because vulnerability is expensive. Emotionally, it costs something. Every time a person reveals a hidden part of themselves, they're taking a risk. They're silently asking, if you see this side of me, will you still stay? That's a frightening question, especially for someone who has been judged, rejected, or misunderstood before. I've had women describe this feeling in remarkably similar ways, not because they were coached, not because they knew each other, but because the emotional experience is universal. One woman told me, "The moment I knew I was falling for him was when I stopped trying to sound impressive." Think about that. Not when she received flowers, not after some dramatic romantic moment, when she stopped trying to impress him. Because genuine emotional attachment often creates a desire that's deeper than attraction. The desire to be known, to be understood, to be accepted without constant performance. And if she does this more than once, if she repeatedly lets you see her flaws, her worries, her less polished moments, she's giving you access to something valuable. Not perfection, trust. Trust is far more intimate than perfection. Perfection creates distance. Trust creates closeness. The problem is that many men accidentally miss this opportunity. A woman shares something vulnerable. Instead of understanding the courage behind it, he immediately tries to fix it, or dismiss it, or change the subject because discomfort makes him uneasy. But what she was actually looking for wasn't a solution. It was safety. There's a difference. Safety tells someone, you don't have to hide here. And when a woman begins associating you with emotional safety, her feelings often deepen in ways that surprise even her. Because emotional attachment isn't built through grand moments. It's built through repeated experiences of feeling understood. Little by little, conversation by conversation, day by day. Then one day she realizes something unusual. When something exciting happens, she wants to tell you. When something painful happens, she wants to tell you. When she's confused, she thinks of you. When she's happy, she thinks of you. And that's when her emotional world begins quietly organizing itself around your presence. Not out of dependence, not out of obsession, but because you've become emotionally significant. And when that happens, another behavior starts appearing. A behavior women often try to hide, yet somehow it always finds a way to reveal itself. One of the strongest signs of deep feelings isn't how much a woman talks. It's what happens when you're not there. Most men pay attention to her behavior in front of them, the smiles, the eye contact, the conversations. But some of the most revealing emotions show themselves in absence. Because absence removes performance. It removes social expectations. It leaves a person alone with their thoughts. And thoughts are honest in ways words often aren't. Have you ever noticed how certain people barely cross your mind when they're gone? Days pass, weeks pass, nothing happens inside you. Then there are people who seem to follow you into quiet moments. You're driving, you think about them. You're eating lunch, something reminds you of them. You hear a song, you remember a conversation. The connection continues even when the person isn't physically present. That's emotional attachment. And women experience this just as deeply, sometimes even more intensely than they admit. When a woman is developing powerful feelings, she often begins creating invisible connections throughout her day. A restaurant reminds her of something you said. A movie scene reminds her of a conversation you had. A random piece of news makes her wonder what your opinion would be. Notice what happens next. She doesn't keep the thought to herself. She reaches out. Not once, repeatedly. That's important. Because reaching out requires intention, it requires effort, and effort follows emotional value. A woman doesn't consistently invite someone into her thoughts unless that person already occupies a meaningful place in her emotional world. This is why seemingly simple messages can carry surprising weight. A random photo, a funny video, a quick question she could have answered herself, a small update about her day. None of these things look dramatic, yet psychologically, they reveal something profound. She's building continuity. She's keeping the emotional thread alive. She's finding reasons to maintain connection. And here's something many men never realize. People rarely look for excuses to communicate with someone who feels emotionally irrelevant. Think about your own life. You naturally make time for people who matter. Not because you're forced to, because you want to. The same principle applies here. Now, that doesn't mean every text message equals love. Life isn't that simple. But when a woman repeatedly finds ways to include you in ordinary moments, when she keeps inviting you into parts of her day that don't require your presence, she's revealing emotional investment. And emotional investment grows through repetition, not intensity, repetition. That's why the title of this conversation matters so much. If she does this more than once. Because once can be coincidence, twice can be curiosity, but when a pattern forms, patterns tell stories words sometimes hide. And there's another reason this behavior matters. She's not just sharing information, she's sharing attention. Attention is one of the most valuable things a person can give. It's limited, it's personal, it's deeply connected to what matters most. So when she keeps turning her attention toward you, again and again, she's revealing something her words may still be trying to protect. But perhaps the most revealing sign of all comes later, after attraction, after curiosity, after excitement, when real feelings face their first challenge. Because anyone can stay close when everything feels easy. What reveals the depth of someone's emotions is what they do when things become difficult. And that's where the truth becomes impossible to ignore. This is where many men finally see the difference between attraction and something much deeper. Because attraction enjoys the good moments. Deep feelings stay curious during the difficult ones. Let me explain. Most connections feel effortless in the beginning. Both people are putting their best foot forward. Conversations are exciting. Differences seem small. Misunderstandings are rare. Everything feels light. But eventually reality arrives. A disagreement happens, someone gets distant. A misunderstanding creates tension. Life becomes stressful. And suddenly, the connection is tested. This is the moment that reveals far more than chemistry ever could. Because when a woman genuinely cares, her instinct is often not to run from the problem, it's to understand it. Now, that doesn't mean she handles everything perfectly. No one does. She may become frustrated, she may need space, she may even say the wrong thing. She's human. But watch what happens after the emotion settles. Does she return? Does she try to repair the connection? Does she want clarity instead of distance? Because those behaviors tell a story, a very important one. People invest energy into what they don't want to lose, and emotional repair requires energy. It requires vulnerability. Pride has to step aside. Defensiveness has to soften. Someone has to risk being misunderstood again. That's not easy. In fact, it's one of the hardest things people do in relationships. I've spoken with women who described lying awake after an argument, replaying every detail, not because they wanted to win, because they wanted the connection back. That's a completely different motivation. One seeks victory, the other seeks closeness. And when feelings are deep, closeness usually matters more. This is why a woman who genuinely values you often becomes interested in understanding your perspective, even when she disagrees with it. She wants to know what happened inside your mind, what you felt, what you meant, why you reacted the way you did. Not because she's conducting an investigation, because understanding reduces emotional distance, and emotional distance feels uncomfortable when someone matters. Now here's an uncomfortable truth. Many men spend years looking for signs of love in compliments, affection, and attention. Yet some of the strongest evidence appears during conflict. Anyone can move toward you when emotions are easy. The real question is, what happens when emotions become complicated? If she repeatedly chooses communication over avoidance, understanding over assumptions, repair over silent resentment, pay attention. Because those choices are rarely accidental. They come from emotional value, and emotional value is the foundation of every meaningful relationship. But there is one final sign, a sign that's quieter than all the others. No dramatic speeches, no grand gestures, no perfect words. Just a subtle shift in how she sees your place in her future. And once that shift happens, it's incredibly difficult to fake. The final sign isn't something she says, it's something she starts doing without realizing it. She begins including you in places where you don't physically exist yet, her future. Not in some dramatic movie-like way, not in a way that pressures you or rushes the relationship. It's much quieter than that, and that's exactly why it's so revealing. Maybe she's talking about a trip she'd like to take someday, and naturally asks if you've ever wanted to visit that place. Maybe she's discussing a goal she has for the next few years, and suddenly your perspective feels relevant. Maybe she's imagining a future event and instinctively pictures you somewhere inside it. At first, these moments seem ordinary, but psychologically, they're significant. Because our minds naturally build future scenarios around what feels emotionally important in the present. Think about it. When someone feels emotionally distant from us, we rarely imagine them playing a meaningful role in our future. We keep them in the present. But when someone matters, the mind starts extending the timeline. That's what emotional attachment often does. It quietly moves a person from part of my day to part of my life. And that transition is powerful. Because it doesn't happen overnight. It happens after countless conversations, shared laughter, moments of trust, small disappointments, moments of understanding. The ordinary experiences that slowly become meaningful. This is why real love rarely arrives with fireworks. Most of the time it arrives through familiarity, comfort, safety, presence. 1,000 tiny moments that accumulate until one day a woman realizes something she can no longer ignore. Your happiness affects her. Your struggles affect her. Your absence affects her. Your presence changes the emotional temperature of her day. And suddenly you're no longer just someone she likes. You've become someone she carries with her. Now, I want to leave you with an important thought. Don't watch women like puzzles that need solving. Don't turn every smile into a hidden message. Don't spend your life hunting for signs. That's not the point. The point is to become emotionally observant, to notice patterns instead of fantasies, to pay attention to consistency instead of wishful thinking. Because genuine feelings reveal themselves through repetition, Not through one perfect moment, not through one flirtatious comment, not through one exciting conversation, through patterns. The woman who repeatedly remembers the little things, who keeps returning to the connection, who trusts you with parts of herself she doesn't show everyone, who includes you in ordinary moments, who tries to repair distance instead of expanding it, who naturally begins imagining a future where you're present. Those patterns matter. And if you've noticed several of them happening consistently, don't rush to label it, just appreciate what it means. Someone may care about you more deeply than their words have been able to express. And sometimes the strongest emotions aren't hidden in what people say. They're hidden in what they keep doing, over and over again. If this conversation gave you a new perspective on relationships, subscribe and join me for the next one. There are truths about human connection that most people never notice, until it's too late.